Anything you wish to do already exists, and I'm going to show you in this video the process of using imagination and visualization to finally bring things into reality, bring things into existence that you've always desired. This mental architecture is the same process used by great thinkers like Albert Einstein, Newton, even Tesla himself has spoken that everything is frequency and vibration. And I'm going to explain this to you in 5 steps. So by the end of the video, you're going to have a complete understanding of how you can use visualization and imagination to actually bring things into physical existence. I'm not talking about some airy-fairy thing where you're going to sit on the couch and imagine and wish for things and somehow they're going to show up. This is an active process, and so let's get right into the video. Before we start here, I'm going to read you a quote. This is from Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. He also says here, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Think about that for a second. We live in a society that is mainly left brain dominated. Analytical thinking, making sense of patterns, all of the faculties that we use, like such as science, engineering, these all use the left brain. And we live in a society that sort of, because of the way society is structured, we actually gatekeep ourselves from using our imagination and visualization, which is some of the most powerful techniques that you can use to literally solve any problem. Whether you are in a relationship that you want to get out of, you don't know the way out. Whether you're in a job that you hate and you want to finally pursue your purpose. Whether you are maybe stuck with some money blocks and are trying to bring more wealth into your life, more abundance into your life. This is the exact process used by great thinkers to solve all of these problems. And it's kind of crazy that such a technique can be used to solve any of your problems, right? But here's the thing. We've been taught from a young age, as we grow older into adulthood, to leave these faculties behind, to leave behind the faculty of imagination, to leave behind creativity. Very few of us actively practice creativity and imagination as if it's something that can become tangible in our lives. So with that being said, let's get right into the process here of how we can actually use these faculties. First of all, we use the 10% of our mind. We only use 10% of our mind. And this is the left brain. The job of the left brain is to make sense of things. But see, we completely, in this process of making sense of things, we've completely forgotten the part of our mind that actually has access to the subconscious, that actually has access to even information beyond time and space, which we call the superconscious. Superconscious. What Carl Jung also calls the collective unconscious. And so have a look here. We're using the 10% of our mind, and we're projecting all of our fear, our need for control and doubts onto the 90%, which means even if you're using visualization and imagination, maybe you've seen some video on YouTube that tells you to sit still and just picture and visualize things, right? Neville Goddard talks about this. I made a video on Helene Hatzel, and she talks about this. And no doubt it's a powerful part of the process, but many of us block ourselves from ever getting past anything more than imagination because of this. The gatekeepers, fear, control, and doubt. And so at a high level, we must understand that we're not using 90% of our mental faculties. That's that 90% of your subconscious mind. And what happens is when you actually make this switch, when you begin to trust your intuition, when you begin to sort of follow the breadcrumbs that are being laid out in front of you in your life, that sometimes almost seem delusional things that we must do, we begin to use the mind much differently. We begin to project the 90% onto the 10%, and finally the 10% of our mind, the left analytical brain, can come up with a plan on how to implement the intuitive guidance, to implement the imaginative visualization. Step 2 is understanding frequency. Everything is frequency and vibration. Tesla says this, right? And he says all things vibrate, all matter vibrates. Even this pen right now that you're looking at. We learned this in early chemistry, that even solid matter is made of atoms that are vibrating, all but at a very low rate, right? And so have a look at this thing right here. Low frequency versus high frequency. These are two individuals that we're going to be looking at here. A low frequency individual is someone who is trapped in these emotions. And emotions can be incredibly powerful. It's a misconception that many people teach that thoughts create reality. Thoughts do not create reality. It is the emotional essence behind the thoughts that give thoughts a charge that are able to either repel things or bring things into our reality. Oftentimes the very things that we don't want. And here's the thing. Low frequency individual will not be able to have a focused desire, will not be able to have a focused viewpoint when they're visualizing. And what happens is when you're very vague about what you want, the universe or God will not give you anything that you don't truly desire, right? So if you're not signaling with your subconscious mind with exact clarity the thing that you want, you're going to get a vague manifestation of it, or might not even get it at all. But have a look at the high frequency individual. This is someone who tapped into the right brain, who is tapped in to the subconscious mind, and maybe if they're skilled enough, if they've spent enough time, have had access to this information beyond time and space in the superconscious mind. And what this individual is going to do, and what you're going to do moving forward, is you're going to focus on whatever it is whatever outcome you desire, and act as if you already have it. Now let's have a look at this high frequency individual. They're basically doing three things very differently than a low frequency individual. The high frequency individual is going to be using their intent. They're going to be very focused on the exact thing that they want. You want a car. Okay, what brand is the car? What do the seats look like? What options do you want? What color is it? You know, all these questions must be answered in exact detail if you're to get the exact thing that you want. Simply asking for a new car is not enough and may not get you the desired result that you want. You might end up getting a used car or something, right? That's not exactly what you want. Intent is very important here. And the clarity of your desire. You see, desire is generated through the heart. The heart is actually its own neurological bundle. Just like the brain has a bunch of neurons and everything embedded in it that's capable of being a strong radio receiver. The heart, which develops when you're only 4 weeks old in the womb, actually has its own bundle of nerves. And here's the thing. I was watching a YouTube short lately, and there's this guy named Greg Braden, who's a metaphysician. You know, he's done a lot of research in this field of metaphysics. And he talks about this story of this girl who was stalked late one night when she was going home. There's a guy following her, and the guy had a knife, and he actually unfortunately caught up with the girl, and very unfortunately killed the girl, in cold blood. But then they took the girl's heart as a part of an organ donor program and transplanted it into another girl's body who needed a heart, obviously. And what happened is very interesting. The girl who had the transplanted heart started having incredible nightmares, started to see things that she didn't understand. And when she dug deeper, going to a psychotherapist and whatnot, there were specific phrases that she was able to express. And through her expression, they realized that the heart was actually storing these old memories that this girl had. And so that just comes to show that the heart is essentially its own mind. The heart does know. That's why this saying, almost forgotten saying now, is follow your heart. This is why we say it. And it's able to tap into something called the heart field. And this heart field is a sort of electromagnetic field. Have you ever walked into a room and been able to, you look around and you see people who are, maybe they've just fought, right? And you can feel the tension. So the clarity of your desire is really important. And here's the thing. This is what creates that magnetic force that'll bring things into your reality that many people in the spiritual community won't touch on or won't talk about at all, and that is taking action. And so as part of this visualization exercise, you are putting out there into the universe, towards God, the things that you desire, the things that you intend to bring into your reality with your intention. And you're creating this heart-mind connection to the right hemisphere of the brain that's essentially able to broadcast your desires out into the field. And so here's the thing, once you start taking action towards the thing that you desire, you will essentially begin shifting towards this new reality, this new life track. It's a misconception that you must work towards the thing that you want to be. Just start being it. There's great value in pretending. Our society today kind of shames people who are pretending to be something. But the word pretend itself implies pre, so doing something before, and then the act of actually, creation, to create and bring into. So even the word itself, pretending, is the ability to imagine and then bring it into reality. It's that bridge between your imagination and reality. Number 3 is immersion. You must immerse yourself in the process. You must immerse yourself in the experience of being the thing that you would desire to bring into your reality. This is done through vivid details. I like to write out in present tense the end point of how I feel, how I'm being, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing for my desired result. Pretend like you're already there. Start actually acting and feeling the emotions of how it is to be there. That's something you can meditate on. And the emotion is very powerful. Emotion itself is energy in motion. When you have thoughts, when you have these vivid imaginations, these vivid visualizations, the emotion behind it can give it a special charge. It can actually accelerate the rate at which these things come into your reality. And I've already mentioned this, but step 3 is being it. Think about the things that you should already be doing. If you want to be, for example, a famous writer, have you wrote anything? Are you writing a blog? Are you actually going out there and taking action towards the things that you desire? You see, because we've made this break between the imagination and reality, many people are stuck in the ecstasy of imagination. They're stuck in the good feelings of as if it was there, as if it is coming, or if it was there. And they fail to realize that these things will never come into their reality unless they start taking action. Action is the highest form of prayer. Remember that. Then there's step 4. There's a passive step and there's an active part of this. The passive part of this is you're going to spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes grounding yourself, doing some breathing exercises. I put together a great video earlier in this channel on a breathing technique, a 5,000-year-old breathing technique that you can use to drop into any kind of relaxed, grounded state. Once you've done this, then you can get into an active meditation, an active visualization exercise, imagining every detail of the thing that you desire, imagining yourself in first person of you doing that thing or receiving that thing. Or for example, if you want a car, pretend like maybe there's a scene where you're driving to a gas station and you're actually going through the motions of filling it up as if you're already doing it. And in doing that, you'll sort of project it, as Helene Hansel says, as part of the SPEC method. You will project it out there. You'll broadcast it through the right side of the brain, that heart-mind connection. And in doing that, you're sort of putting the signal out there of what you desire. Now, you have to be careful with your emotions, because if you start wanting it, then you may even push it away. You must live as if the thing that's coming to you will not change your emotional state. And that's why you say you must already act like you have it. Because if you have feelings of wanting it, or saying to yourself, I'll be so happy when this happens, it's not going to come to you because you're not living as if you already have it. There's some subtleties there. Step 5 is to actually, step 5 is not needed, but if you really want to accelerate the rate at which these things come into your reality, then to accelerate it, there's 3 emotions that you can embody, because emotions will charge this broadcasted signal that you're sending out there your interest in desire of what you want. And these three emotions, when you practice them, are joy, gratitude, and excitement. I used to work for a hedge fund manager just for a couple summers because I was really starting to get into finance. And he would always tell a story of when he went to Japan and he met the wealthiest man in Japan. And the guy's passed away now. But one of the things he said or asked him was, what is your secret to amassing all this wealth? And the guy just had one word. He said, Maru. Maru. Which essentially translated to gratitude. And he would practice Maru consistently. He asked, how many times a day do you express your gratitude under this concept of Maru? And the guy said, at least 1,000 times a day. Well, I took him up on this challenge, and I actually got myself a gratitude counter, just a little clicker. So every time I would feel grateful for something, I would count it just to see how many times a day I could be grateful for things while actively practicing this. And I got between 100 and 200, which is really good, which is way more than the average person. And I was consciously doing this. But imagine being so grateful that you can stack this to 1,000 times a day. I mean, he would be like, I'm grateful for the ground I'm standing on. I'm grateful for the air that I breathe. It got really obsessive, but this was the way he was able to charge up this feeling, or charge up his thoughts and his desires with his emotions of joy and gratitude. And of course, being excited for the things that are already in his reality. Now remember, patience is key here, because sometimes you may think something is coming to you, such as a contest, for example, and you may not win. And that's okay, because you can never know how things are going to come into your reality. That is not your job. See, the universe is so intelligent, is so omnipresent in every essence of our being and around us. Spirit is in everything. And in us trying to tell it how it should come in our reality is going back to this. We're now casting our need for control onto the 90% of our intellectual mind. And in doing that, you immediately shut off any possibility of these things coming into your reality. So we have to acknowledge there's this gatekeeper at the mind that always wants to control things and always wants to know how and when things are going to come into our reality. But that's just simply not true. We don't know. And so focusing on the how is only going to be a distraction. And I encourage you, when things come up, when you're on this path, that when the how comes up and you start thinking about how things are going to come up, how things are going to show up, you need to acknowledge that's a distraction. And that's going to prevent anything good from coming into your life. I also put here, this is something I experienced when I was working as a paramedic, is like one of the biggest skills you can learn is understanding the difference between your intuition and your ego. Because in that line of work, if you're solely functioning off ego unknowingly, you might even get yourself killed. You might get yourself in a very dangerous situation. And so understanding the difference here between intuition and ego is very important, because as you start visualizing, as you start imagining, as you start broadcasting your desires into the ether, into the superconscious mind that's able to bring you all your desires, you're going to get these little intuitive whispers of things you may have to do, things you may have overlooked. Sometimes it may seem delusional. Sometimes it may seem logical. And here's the thing. The easiest way to discern is to look at the emotions behind it. If you are functioning on intuition and higher guidance, the emotions will generally be backed by joy, excitement, gratitude, generally positive feelings, whereas the ego is often guided by fear, mainly fear of missing out, fear, uncertainty, doubt, what we call fear and FOMO, and also the need for control. So if it feels like it's something that you need to control or get under your control, it's most likely operating from a place of ego. And this is going to be a really important navigation tool as you're working towards your desire, because sometimes these things can come into your reality very quickly. Other times it can take longer than you expect, but when it comes, it's much better than you realize. A lot of this information, I guess, was things that I used to practice as a paramedic when I was working in emergency services. unknowingly. And once I learned this, I was able to get this blueprint and apply it to my own life to start building massive abundance, to bring in my partner, significant other, to create better connections with myself, to have a better understanding of my place in the universe and how I function within it. And it's unfortunate that much of this knowledge has been, hidden away from us. But that is the purpose of this channel. And if you like the content you're seeing here, please subscribe to the channel